I am not alone. My body is my home. Body is my home. Oh, 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 oh. I am not alone. Body is my home. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. My body is my home. I am not alone. I am not alone. My body is my home. My body is my home. Oh, 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 oh. I am not alone. Body is my home. So I love my body, it is my home. Along with my spirit, I am whole, I am whole. I love my body, it is my home. Along with my spirit, I am whole, I am whole. I love my body, it is my home. Along with my spirit, I am whole, I am whole. I love my body, it is my home. It is my home, it is my home. Oh, 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 I am not alone. Body is my home. Oh, oh, I am not alone. My body is my home. Oh, I'm not alone. Body is my home. Oh, 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 I am not alone. Body is my home. Oh, 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 my body is my own.
Thank you so much, Katie. You're so beautiful. Welcome, my loves. Welcome to this
That's so good. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. You're amazing. I'm going to get Katie to sing just a little bit more of her beautiful medicine in just a moment. But before we do that, I'm just going to guide a short little meditation to drop us into our bodies, as this masterclass is all about creating safety in our own bodies, about being in our bodies and learning to regulate our emotions. So if you all just want to get nice and comfortable wherever you are, and when you're ready, just closing down through your eyes. And taking a big, long, deep breath in the nose. And a deep breath out the mouth. One more deep breath in the nose. And a deep breath out the mouth. And just guiding all of your awareness into your body. So starting to feel the sensation of the earth beneath you. The sensation of the earth holding you. The sensation of the clothes on your skin. Maybe the sensation of air or breeze on your skin. And just allowing yourself to come home into your body. So whatever you've been doing throughout the day or whatever you were up to just before this moment, allowing it to start to trickle off into the background as you come all the way home into your body. And so allowing yourself to breathe a little deeper, expanding the heart and your belly as you breathe, and feeling the sensation of your breath guide you home. So as I was meditating a few days ago, tuning into this masterclass, the beautiful song that Katie was singing as you were all entering was playing in my mind. And this is a song that Katie wrote herself that she's shared at some events that I've been to. And I reached out to her as I had this vision that she would sing this song on the masterclass. And she said that she's actually just had this song recorded. So she's awaiting for the final copy to be able to upload it to all of the places. And this song is such beautiful medicine for finding a home in yourself and in your own body. So with our eyes closed, I'd love to invite Katie to sing once more, and really allowing her words, allowing the lyrics, and allowing the music into your body, into your heart, into your mind.
I am not alone. I am not alone. My body is my home. My body is my home. I am not alone. I am not alone. My body is my home. My body is my home. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 I am not alone. Body is my home. Oh, 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 I am not alone. My body is my home. I love my body, it is my home. At one with my spirit, I am whole, I am whole. I love my body, it is my home. One with my spirit, I am whole, I am whole. I love my body, it is my home. One with my spirit, I am whole, I am whole. I love my body, it is my home. It is my home, it is my home. I am not alone, never alone. My body is my home. Oh, 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 I am not alone. My body is my home. Body, body is my own. Mm, 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 I'm safe in my body, it is my own. It is my home. I am whole, I am whole, and I am not alone. My body is my own.
Thank you so much, Katie. You're amazing. Did you want to share just a couple of words about what inspired you to write that song and how everybody can find your amazing music?
I was in a moment of not safety in my body, and I'd been on a big journey and I was alone, funnily enough. And yeah, a couple of friends of mine went to go to the beach, and I just stayed, and I felt so alone. And it was this deep journey that I'd been on, this plant medicine journey where I went to the abyss of nothing, and everyone had their place except for me. And it was just that reminder, like, we're never going to feel okay anywhere unless we can just be at home fully in our body. So it's the frequency of anchoring that energy and being at home and safe in your body, and also just like loving your body for what it is, and really that with your spirit, so that we're in cohesion and listening to that. So it just it was medicine for me, and it's been medicine for everybody. And so I did a crowdfunding, and it's now complete. So Trillia is my music name, so TRILLIAH, and that's just on trillia.com and Instagram and Spotify and all that stuff. That song will be out in a few weeks.
Amazing. I'm so excited for this song to be out. Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So I've typed Katie's music name, Katie's project name in the chat there if you want to look her up on the socials and Spotify. Follow her on Spotify. That song is amazing, and so grateful that she was able to share that with us. Welcome, my loves. Welcome, my loves. Thank you so much for being here. It's so beautiful to see all of your faces. If you are here and don't have your video on, and you can put your video on, that would be amazing. I'd love to see your face. We'd love to see your faces and connect with you. I'm going to make this masterclass nice and interactive because I want to give you as much medicine, as much support and guidance as I can. And so I'm going to be asking you some questions throughout the masterclass so that I can support you in the best possible way, so that the things that I'm sharing and the things that I'm saying are actually relevant to you. So the more that you show up inside of this masterclass answering questions and asking, obviously, the more that you'll receive. So some questions I'll ask is just like a hands up, and then you can just put your hands up. Other questions you might want to type in the chat box. So first question, hands up, how many of you have come to an online masterclass like this before? Just curious. A few of you. Yeah, not so many. And hands up if any of you I have not connected with in the past. I think most of you I know. Most of your faces look familiar, or your names. It's so beautiful to have you all. Hands up if you're nervous. Is anyone nervous? Catherine. A couple of you. Dana, yeah. So a few of my clients are in here, and I've asked them to share a little bit in a moment, and so they might be feeling a little bit nervous because they're going to be speaking. But I always think it's really beautiful to hear not only my words, but the words of my clients as well, because it's all well and good that I tell you, you can have these amazing transformations and how you can learn to regulate your emotions, but hearing it from somebody that is going through the process or has been through the process and has received the changes and integrated the changes, I feel is so much more healing. But before we get into that, I just wanted to to share a little vulnerable share about myself. So it's amusing and ironic and perfect that I am currently holding a masterclass on creating safety in yourself and emotional regulation, because the last few weeks have been probably moments in my life, I'd say within the last year, that have been the most dysregulating. And so it's funny that I'm holding a masterclass on regulating your emotions and creating safety in yourself, because I'm going through that process now. And it's perfect because it allows me to be more real and honest about what learning to regulate your emotions looks like. So it's not that learning to regulate your emotions makes life suddenly like super easy, like your problems just evaporate. That's not what happens. Your problems are still there, challenges still arise, things still pop up in your life that trigger you. I'm not going to promise that everything just magically disappears. All of those things are still there, but you do learn how to move through them in a way that allows you to feel empowered. So instead of going down the rabbit hole of self-doubt or a shame spiral or an anxiety spiral, or maybe like in the past, you might have, I don't know, when something triggered you, maybe you used to sit in the shower and cry for 3 hours. Those kinds of things don't happen so much anymore. Yes, things trigger and challenge you, but you learn how to move through them with a sense of empowerment and not to feel afraid of your emotions. The thing that a lot of us can tend to do when we haven't yet learned how to regulate and process our emotions, which, by the way, not many people have been taught, is that we can tend to bury and suppress them. And what happens when you learn how to emotionally regulate is you stop suppressing your emotions. You stop burying your emotions because you feel empowered around your ability to not only feel them, but also take yourself out of them. And the reason that we can tend to bury or numb or suppress our emotions is because they're uncomfortable, right? Like we don't want to feel uncomfortable feelings of jealousy or insecurity or anxiety. It feels uncomfortable in our bodies. But when we learn how to create a sense of safety in our bodies, and we learn how to create a sense of safety around feeling our emotions, we allow ourselves to lean into the discomfort. And as many of my clients would know, it's something that I say all the time, lean into the discomfort, because that's where the growth is. And it's true. If you always continue to do the things that you've always done, you'll stay stuck where you've always been. So learning to lean into the discomfort is probably one of the most transformational things that you can do in life, because change happens on the other side of discomfort, right? So I'd love to hear a little bit from you guys, or you women. If you want to just type in the chat box a few struggles or challenges that you personally have around regulating your emotions, because I could sit here and say off the list of things that might be true for you, but I would rather just hear from you. What are your current challenges or struggles around regulating your emotions? If you feel called to take yourself off mute and speak, you're totally welcome to. Otherwise, feel free to just write it in the chat and I can read it out. So Tasmeen says struggling to feel safe within herself. Jody says identifying the trigger sometimes can be difficult. Yeah. Claire, I use distraction a lot to numb or avoid. Yeah. Millie, anxiety can take such a tight grip. Katharina says, allowing myself to feel grief or anger. And Claire says, yes, also anxiety. Jess, frustration or anger, not allowing myself space to process, pretending like everything's okay around others. Yeah. And Jacqueline says, I've suppressed a lot my emotions. So when I do feel them, they feel overpowering. And then I feel that with distraction. Natalie says, patience, I have none. Chaos, it's energizing but exhausting. And doubt takes me down a rabbit hole. And Angie, the intense spiral once triggered by my partner and pretending everything else is okay around everyone else. Beautiful. So the thing with emotional regulation is that basically none of us are taught how to feel and process and regulate our emotions from a young age. And that's because most people don't know how to do that. Our parents probably didn't know how to do that. Maybe we weren't given a safe space to express our emotions. Maybe we were told that feeling emotions is weak. Maybe we were told that, you know, in order to be good or in order to be rewarded or validated, you had to be a good girl and not have a tantrum, not cry, things like this. And so what can happen is this, it starts this form or this pattern of self-abandonment around emotions. So suppressing our emotions, numbing our emotions, they're actually forms of self-abandonment, because our true selves, our authentic selves, what they really need is space to feel how they feel. And so in starting the process of unraveling this pattern of self-abandoning around suppressing our emotions is where we start to find our sense of self. So something that I know many of us struggle with is this belief that we're not enough, that we, as we are not enough. Jody says, yes, I was bullied for feeling or expressing feelings in a previous relationship. Yeah, exactly. And so when we have this core belief that we're not enough, we try and find coping mechanisms and coping strategies to avoid feeling the extreme discomfort of this belief of not being enough. And like I mentioned, this can start to create subtle forms of self-abandonment. So what do I mean by that? Often our abandonment wound comes from, often our belief that we're not enough comes from an abandonment wound in childhood. And so what can happen is whenever our needs weren't met for unconditional love in childhood, and unconditional love means a space to express and feel our emotions. It means being loved despite what we were achieving or what we were doing, being loved just for being ourselves. And that can happen on the extreme end of the spectrum in trauma and abuse and neglect in childhood, but it can even happen on a more subtle level anytime that our need for unconditional love wasn't met. And so if any of these things happen, it can start to cause this abandonment wound. And so when we have an abandonment wound, we start to find coping mechanisms and coping strategies to avoid the feeling of being abandoned again. And again, that's what I'm saying about avoiding these uncomfortable feelings. And so when we do that, one of the patterns that we start to do as we try and avoid, we use these coping mechanisms to try and avoid this intense pain of feeling someone abandon us, is that we actually start to abandon ourselves. And that's when things like people pleasing start arising, not respecting our own boundaries, not speaking up, not expressing our truth, not expressing how we feel to other people, not asking for what we need in a relationship. Jody says to normalize it in your own mind, kind of thing. To normalize it in your own mind. So it's more like a coping mechanism. It's to avoid feeling abandoned again. So is that what we're kind of doing? It's more like to avoid feeling abandoned, we try and make sure that everybody else around us is okay. And we do that through coping mechanisms like people pleasing, avoiding saying no, not being strong in our boundaries so that other people don't leave. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so, yeah, we start to use these forms of coping mechanisms like people pleasing, avoiding confrontation, not expressing our truth, not speaking up, things like this. And Tasmin says, I escaped my body, had an out-of-body experience. Exactly. So that's a more intense form of self-abandonment, is when we actually leave our body energetically. And so then you can have this like dissociated feeling, this out-of-body experience, and like you're not fully present in the moment. And suppressing our emotions, to bring it all the way back to what this masterclass is about, suppressing our emotions is another form of self-abandonment, because we're not allowing ourselves to fully feel and express the emotions that are there. We're abandoning the part of ourself that feels the emotion. And so when we do this over and over and over and over again, it becomes a pattern. And in order to break this pattern, what does Dana say? I just put on the survivor mask and never let anyone in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's that abandonment wound being activated, putting on the survivor mask, not letting anyone in. And that's because there's this abandonment wound that if I don't let anyone in, they can't leave. So that's another coping mechanism and coping strategy. And so when we're feeling intense emotions, when intense emotions come up for us and they feel really uncomfortable in our body, some coping mechanisms that we can use are things like numbing or binging. And I know I've spoken to a lot of you in the past. Sometimes that looks like being on social media all the time. Sometimes that looks like drinking alcohol or smoking or shopping. A lot of my previous clients have like had this coping mechanism of going shopping, like going online shopping every time they feel an emotion, to avoid feeling that. And then it gives them this dopamine hit. It's the same thing as opening up your phone and scrolling on social media, or using food to numb yourself from feeling what you feel, or using TV. It's all forms of distraction, right? Drugs. Yeah, exactly. Drugs as well. They're all forms of distraction, numbing ourselves from what we truly feel. And another way we can do this is by avoiding being alone, by always keeping busy, always having something to do, right? And maybe that looks like overworking, or maybe that looks like always having a busy social calendar. Like you don't have one space in your calendar to just sit there and be with your emotions. You can see Natalie nodding her head. Yeah. And so these are the ways that this can come up for us. And so I would love to hear from you all. What would it mean to you to have more emotional regulation in your life? How would that change your ability to show up in your life? What would it mean for you to be able to have more control over your emotions?
I think personally, patience is a big one for me. I recognize that by rushing into things and not thinking things through, I've had situations at work, in my personal life, where if I'd just taken a moment to collect my thoughts or just sit with my thoughts for a second, things could have been really different. Bad or good, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes it's just that extra 10 or 15 seconds, to just wait, or to just think things through, or to just recognize whether you're even adding value to something. That sense of I must, and I don't know whether that's a sense of inclusion. I have to say something, whatever. I don't know where that comes from, but I also think that sense of patience, I've never had it, and therefore I've just filled it in with everything else. I don't know if that makes sense.
So when you say patience, in what kind of situation does this come up for you? Can you give me an example?
Look, I'll give you an example where I've I've had to practice it, and that's with my son. So I'm a single mom, for those that I've not met before, but I think in that whole, I think every parent or everyone has had a situation where if I just do it myself, it'll be quicker, or it'll be easier, it'll be less messy, it'll be less strenuous, I won't have to deal with the aftermath. But taking the time to just sit with that need to fix, and just allow my little boy to learn, giving him that opportunity to be a mess, to do things wrong and to make mistakes and then learn together. I think that's probably also attached to a sense of control as well, because if I'm patient, I feel like I don't have control. Anything can happen in that space of time where I'm not doing. So perhaps that's an attached, the patience and the control go together. I'm not sure, but and where I've had to learn to do that with my little boy, and just take a step back and just deep breathe through it and just deal with whatever the outcome is, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I recognize that just by being patient, just by taking a step back, it's actually not a bad thing. It's okay to lose control every now and then, because it can turn out really, really good sometimes.
Yeah, that's what was coming up for me when you were speaking, is the connection between the patience and the need for control, and the not trusting, not allowing, not surrendering. So it's beautiful that you had that realization as you were speaking. And yeah, another thing that came up for me as you were speaking is allowing ourselves the space and time in the moment to respond instead of react. So this can apply to when you're in conversation with someone, if someone triggers you or if something triggers you, and that split second of wanting to react, and then allowing yourself just a moment of higher awareness, taking a breath and responding from a place of a little bit more calm, feeling a little bit more grounded. And in terms of learning to trust and learning to surrender, a lack of trust in any area of your life generally tends to come down to a lack of trust in self. And so I'm going to get to, in a little moment, some ways to cultivate self-trust in our own lives. And yeah, I'll get to those in a little moment. But generally, when trust is coming up, if we take it all the way back to its root, it's often a lack of self-trust. And a lack of self-trust generally also comes from childhood. Something, maybe a need wasn't met in childhood, and therefore we didn't learn how to trust in anything or in someone, if that makes sense. Yep. There's lots of comments here. Jacqueline says, to stand behind myself and the decisions I'm making without worry or self-doubt, creating a whirlwind of worry. Yeah. So self-doubt coming up again, which is again, lack of self-trust. So I'll speak to cultivating self-trust a little bit later. Katharina says, not needing to numb or distract myself, creating inner peace. Yeah, absolutely. And something that I bring up for women when I have calls and conversations with them is a lot of women that I speak to, they're single mums. A lot of women that I speak to, they're single mums. And something that comes up for them is a lack of time. I don't have time. I don't have time to do anything. And when we learn to stop people pleasing and when we learn to start asserting our boundaries, suddenly we have so much more time and space because we're not living our lives for everybody else and we're creating time for ourselves. And another thing that I wanted to say about peace and not needing to numb or distract is that liberation that you'll feel in your mind, like creating mental space when your mind no longer goes down the rabbit hole of anxiety or fear or worry or self-doubt. Like it creates so much mental space, so much liberation. And when you have mental space, you'll suddenly have, when you have mental space and time, you'll suddenly have more space in your life in general. Chanel, I struggle to articulate how I feel in personal relationships. And when I reply, I'm defensive, pushing the other person away. So being able to calmly request what I'd want. Yeah. So communication is such a big one. And communication is something that I teach inside of my program that I know a lot of my clients in here will remember the communication framework that I sent and how beautiful that is to speak your desires and speak to anything that's triggering you in life. But I teach communication at the end of my program because learning to express and communicate is the most superficial thing and like the last thing to embody. But beneath learning to communicate is emotional regulation, right? Like you can't articulate things in a really beautiful way if you're feeling really activated and triggered and don't know how to deal with your emotions in the first place. But absolutely being able to hold yourself through feeling activated and learning how to respond as opposed to react instead of being defensive. And being able to ask for what you want is the biggest relationship hack I've ever experienced. It's insane how my relationship now, like just I ask for what I want and then I get it. It like blows my mind. I'm like, whoa, why didn't anyone tell me about this before? Sarah, it means I'd feel in control and able to take responsibility. Yeah, beautiful. To feel peace and comfort in myself and not feeling like I need external validation, to just be comfortable on my own in my own company. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that running to other people for safety and validation when we're feeling big, heavy emotions. And that's something that I spoke about, I think, on an Instagram story, is creating safety in our own selves, in our own bodies, so that safety doesn't exist inside of someone else or inside of our bank account in the number of dollars that we have in the bank account or in the job that we have, but safety exists in here. And that's a process, right? Like I said, the last few weeks I've been triggered, and that's because I'm in this place of needing to move house. And your house is such a big form of safety, right? It's like where you live. And not knowing where I'm going to be living next month is like triggering that lack of safety. But I'm really continually coming home to safety exists in here. Safety isn't outside of me. Safety is in my own body. Gail, yes, I really relate to responding defensively rather than waiting a second to respond in a more positive way. Yeah. Beautiful. I don't have a sense of time. So, like I said at the beginning of the call, often what is happening beneath all of these challenges and struggles is this core belief of not feeling like we're enough. And I would say that most of the population has this core belief in some form or another. In some people, it's expressed in different ways. In some people, it might look like overconfidence. In some people, it might look like underconfidence. But in learning to unravel this core belief that we're not enough, there is so much liberation, so much safety, so much security in understanding that we are enough. That's when we no longer seek that validation outside of ourselves. And unraveling the core beliefs that we hold about ourselves, it obviously takes time, right? And so this is one of the first things that we do inside my program is start to work on unraveling the core beliefs, because it takes the whole process to start to create new beliefs and start to take actions from the embodiment of a new belief. That's when the needle mover really starts to happen. We can, I'm sure you've all done it in the past, like saying affirmations or saying beautiful things to yourself or writing things in your journal. And they're amazing. They're amazing ways to start to reprogram things. But until you start acting in a new way, you will never see true change. And that's why in the program that I offer, we use neuroscience-backed hypnosis to reprogram the beliefs. So we're working on the subconscious mind, but then we use action in our daily life so that we're working on our conscious mind and life. And so when we start taking new actions, that's when we really ground in the embodiment of our new belief. So unraveling core beliefs and recreating new beliefs is a really important part of this work. But obviously the second part of that is learning how to regulate your emotions. And so, like I mentioned before, learning the process of emotional regulation and creating safety in yourself doesn't mean that all of your challenges and your struggles just evaporate. It doesn't mean that you'll never get triggered again, or that you won't ever have to move house, or that you won't lose your job, or that you won't have money struggles. But it does give you a sense of empowerment around your ability to move through these challenges and triggers that pop up in life. Life is about challenges. The challenges that pop up in life, I truly believe, are happening for us. They're the reason why we're here on this earth. I believe that our souls come to earth to move through the challenges because that's what our soul needs to grow and evolve. And so when we learn a sense of empowerment around these challenges and understand that life is happening for us, instead of being in this victim mindset, which I've totally been in myself in the past, of why the fuck is this happening to me? Like, why does this have to happen? Why is this happening to me? Why is life so hard? In learning to really move through life with the knowing, the understanding that life is happening for me, not to me. The challenges that are coming up in my life are for me, for my soul's growth, and even sometimes for my soul's purpose. I know that for me as a coach, like all of the challenges that I've moved through in my life have given me the capacity to be able to hold space for all of you, to be able to hold you through what you're moving through and guide you into your transformation. If I hadn't been through the challenges myself, I wouldn't have that ability. And the same is true for all of you. So if you're moving through something challenging, if you're currently feeling triggered, if everything feels out of alignment, know that as challenging as it is sometimes to understand, it is happening for you, and you are supported. You are supported. So emotional regulation. One of the main things to understand and to really start to integrate is that feeling emotions is not weak. It is not weak to feel sadness. It is not bad to feel angry. Anger is something that almost feels like inappropriate or scary for a lot of women to feel. I know some of my clients in the past, one of my clients, you know, her ex-partner and her dad were very angry, aggressive men. And so she developed this relationship to anger that associated anger with that kind of person, that kind of experience. And so she never allowed herself to feel anger because she didn't want to be like that. She didn't want to be aggressive like her father or her ex-partner. But in so doing, she suppressed her anger. She never allowed herself to feel angry. And instead, she would just cry. So if something made her angry, she would just cry. And like I said, that's because her relationship with anger, it had this connotation to it of an angry, aggressive, violent man. And so I explained to her that there's nothing wrong with anger. Like, anger is beautiful. Rage can be sacred, but it's how is it channeled and how is it expressed? So when I say stop suppressing your emotions, allow yourself to feel your emotions, it's really, really, really important that you do this in a safe space and you're not projecting it onto someone else. So like, by all means, get angry, but don't like start yelling at someone because that's not helpful. I teach my clients emotional release practices where you yell, you scream, you punch pillows, but you do it in the confines of your own space, not around anyone else. So you're not projecting that anger out onto someone else. But it's really empowering, especially as women, especially if you're a woman that's never allowed yourself to feel anger. Jody, on a mountaintop with no one in ear's reach. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get up on that mountain and scream your heart out. Yeah, and one of my other clients, she comes from I think it's Muslim background. She's from Lebanon. And so women are like not really encouraged to express anger or to have much of a voice at all. And so she's spent her entire life pushing anger away. And so we started working together and she started releasing her anger in her bedroom. She started yelling in the car. She started punching pillows, and she messages me. She's like, I love anger. I love feeling angry. It's the best. She's like, I'm on a rage rampage. She's like allowing herself to feel all that anger. Jody, as a married woman, we're encouraged. Yeah, that's beautiful. So nice. I love that. So that's anger, but sadness is the same. So I would love to hear a little bit from you, actually. Strong warrior woman, Mana Wahini, beautiful. I love that. I'm probably saying it wrong, but so I would love to hear from you. What is an emotion that you have not allowed yourself to feel? So maybe it's anger or maybe it's sadness. I was going to ask what it meant. Thanks, Jody. Yeah. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's something else. What's an emotion that you tend to suppress or see as bad or wrong or not let yourself feel or experience? Tasmin says love. Anger. So love, anger, love, sadness, anger and grief, anger and rejection. Yeah. So the process of, Dana, the old me was scared of all emotions. Yeah. Missing someone, sadness. So the process of learning emotional regulation and starting to create safety in yourself is allowing the full emotional experience. One of my clients who's on this call, Dana, who said the old me was scared of all emotions. I shared with her that your capacity to experience I'm going to call them yummy emotions, because I'm not going to use good or bad or positive, negative. Your capacity to experience and feel yummy emotions is the capacity at which you allow yourself to feel the uncomfortable emotions. So if our emotional range was like this big, with yummy emotions on this side and uncomfortable emotions on this side, if you only allow yourself to experience this much uncomfortable emotion, you'll only ever feel this much yummy emotion. So some of you are mentioning love, which is, I would say, on the yummy end of the spectrum. If you don't allow yourself to feel all of this range down here, you won't be able to experience love, bliss, ecstasy. And so that's numbing, right? Like reducing our emotional experience, reducing our emotional range. So the capacity to which you allow yourself to feel anger, sadness, rejection, abandonment, grief, like allowing yourself to go there, you'll be able to go all the way up on the other end of the spectrum. You increase your capacity to feel all things, which is beautiful. It's life. But how do you not get stuck down there, right? If I'm inviting you to experience anger, to experience rejection, to experience abandonment, how do you not get stuck there? Well, my invitation would be to allow yourself a container of time. So I use emotional release practices, and I've got an emotional release practice video that I give to all of my clients, and I'm going to be sending to all of you in an email. So you'll receive a series of emails after this masterclass, which with some beautiful gifts for you. And one of those gifts is my emotional release practices video. So it guides you through like punching pillows and screaming and yelling and crying, and also holding yourself with grounding touch and soothing yourself. All of these are emotional release practices. My advice or my invitation, if an uncomfortable emotion arises, is to set a timer for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes to go all into the experience and allow yourself to fully feel it. And the thing with emotions is that the more that we suppress them, the longer they'll last. But if we allow ourselves to fully go into it, emotions can actually shift really, really, really quickly. On my client calls, I guide my clients through emotional release practices, and it's pretty weird, right? Like we're like sitting there on the bed punching pillows and yelling, and at first they're a little bit resistant, like what the fuck's going on? Who is this crazy lady? And one of my beautiful clients, she was a little bit apprehensive to doing the practice. She had some emotions around an ex that had popped up in her life, and she'd been feeling a little bit blah. She'd been feeling pretty blah for like a week, basically, since our last call. And I was like, all right, let's do an emotional release practice. Let's get it out. And she was like, oh, okay, this is weird. This is really weird. So we like went through it. It was like 5 minutes or less. We like punched some pillows, yelled, screamed, like punched the air. And then afterwards she was like, it's gone. How did that happen? Like, what the hell? I don't feel that anymore. And so when you allow yourself to fully go into it and express it through the body, that's when it shifts. But when we push it away, that's when it stays for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, when we don't allow ourselves to fully feel it. But if you go all into the whole experience, like when I was going through my last breakup, I was living with mum and I would just like sit on the floor and like howl, like cry, howl, and just like let it all out and fully allow myself to feel it. And then it would shift. And then obviously it would come back again the next day and I would do it again. And I just kept allowing myself to go all the way into the feeling. And like emotions are energy in motion. So they need to be moved through the body to be let out. That's why the emotional release practices are like big, like punching pillows or crying. It allows the emotion, the energy behind it to be let out through the body. One of you beautiful women mentioned that when something comes up for you in your relationship, you chuck a tantrum. And I love that because my invitation would actually be to keep chucking a tantrum, but to do it by yourself. So like literally, like if you want to be like a toddler and get on the floor and yell and scream and just chuck a fucking tantrum, like do it, but do it by yourself, not at someone. Angela, I'm such a tantrum thrower, yeah. Dodie, do you do movement like dance? Yes, absolutely. So I love to put on, you can put on any music that resonates with you, but I love to put on like tribal music or like EDM or like beautiful music like that and just stomp it out, allow myself to dance. Yeah, 100%. So apart from emotional release practices, which are like the really big expression and allowing the energy to move, the other end of the spectrum is self-soothing, wild woman. Yes, exactly. Fucking love the wild woman. The other end of the spectrum is self-soothing. So whenever your inner child is feeling really triggered, and so a lot of you mentioned anxiety. Anxiety is a really big experience that often comes from a triggered inner child. So when your inner child doesn't feel safe, when your inner child feels a lack of safety. I'm just letting someone in. And learning to soothe your inner child is one of the most beautiful practices that you will be able to experience. And I'm going to guide us through a little meditation to connect with and soothe our inner child in a second, but I would love to hear a little share from one of my clients about regulating emotions. Sarah, would you be able to share a little bit about how you started to release your emotions? I know you've got some really fun stories about how you've released emotions since we started working together.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what to say that you haven't said, but it's a journey. So what you were saying before about, starting off and being uncomfortable was definitely true for me. I think with the anger part with Susie, we did like screaming in the pillows and stuff and punching them. And it just felt like a little bit silly, but it was really releasing. So what I did to take it further was I started going for walks late at night at this secluded beach, and I realized no one was around. So I did the screaming again, and I did like 5 times. And then the last one, I just did like this emotional, raw, primal scream that I swear just came right out of my soul. Like I could hear it and it didn't sound like me. It was like I was outside of my body. And I just dropped to the ground, laughing my head off like a crazy person. If anyone walked past, you would have thought I was being murdered because it was so loud. But I felt so free after it. Like it was free and light, and I'd never experienced anything like that before letting it go. And it's something that hasn't, still can come up in little bits, but I can find other ways to do it, but just accepting it and releasing it was ridiculously empowering. And there's so many more that we've done together, like in actually releasing them. And it's just about finding what works for you until it works, like continuing to do it. That's what I found. And since then, I have so much more free time. Like, they always took up space trying to avoid it, but actually sitting with it, it gives you so much time for the yummy emotions, I guess. And that was another thing that I've really learned with regulating the emotions I associated. Instead of, now that I'm accepting them, like, my sadness serves me purpose. It's taught me a lesson and it reminds me not to do that a lesson again. My anxiety serves me purpose, and the anger. And in accepting that, it's made me feel like I'm in more control and free. So I think that's it.
Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful that your emotions, all of them, even the uncomfortable ones, serve a purpose. It's so true. Like, you're angry for a reason. You're angry because, like, someone fucking, like, I don't know, what's a good example? Your partner isn't cleaning the dishes. I don't know. That's a message. It's a message from the body that you're angry, that this isn't okay, that there's some need that is not being met. There's some need for support in your relationship that is not being met. And that's a message that you can then, instead of reacting and being like, why do you never fucking clean the dishes? Which is not what I would suggest, but allowing yourself to sit with the discomfort of the anger and maybe go and release it by yourself if you need, and then come to the conversation feeling calm and empowered because you don't need to project the emotion, but you use the message of the emotion to communicate that you would actually really like to receive a little bit more support in the relationship. And that could look like maybe cleaning the dishes when you're done. So yeah, I love what you shared there about using your emotion, or your emotions being a message. It's so true. Yeah. And if we spend our lives suppressing or resisting or numbing our emotions, we'll never receive those messages, and we'll never be able to grow and evolve from what those messages are trying to tell us. I love that. Everyone's giving you love in the chat. Thanks for sharing, honey. All right. I'm going to guide us through a little meditation on connecting to our inner child, which is something that's really helped me the past few weeks. And I've guided some of my clients through the same, and I know it's really helped them. So when you're ready, just getting into a nice, comfortable position and starting to close down through the eyes again. And taking another big, long, deep breath in the nose. And a long breath out the mouth. One more deep breath in the nose. And a long breath out the mouth. And starting to visualize a corridor in your mind's eye. And starting to walk down this corridor until you see a beautiful light at the end of the corridor. As you walk towards this light, you realize there is a staircase going downwards into a beautiful garden. And so knowing that this garden has something to share with you, you begin to walk down the steps from 7, 6, feeling your feet on the stairs, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feeling your feet landing on the grass in the garden. And as you arrive in the garden, you feel so safe, so held here. Hearing the sounds of the leaves rustling in the wind, the sounds of birds chirping, seeing butterflies and flowers. This garden represents your internal landscape. There is deep healing and safety inside of this garden in your mind whenever you need it. And as you start to wander around the garden, you see a little girl start to run up towards you. You notice that this little girl is you, your inner child. And as she runs up to you, you can sense that she feels a little scared. Perhaps there's some emotions inside her from experiences that happened as a child. And as you see her standing in front of you, you crouch down and let her know that she is so safe with you. That she is safe to feel and experience whatever she feels. That it's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to chuck a tantrum. It's okay to cry. It's all okay. And so you pick her up and hold her in your arms, feeling her chest on your chest, her heart on your heart. And you allow her full emotional experience, allowing her to feel however she feels, letting her know that she is safe to feel. She is safe to experience and express whatever she feels. You go and sit on a bench, still holding her in your arms in your garden, gently patting her on the back, continuing to let her know that she's safe. She's safe with you. And as you continue to allow her to express and experience, you breathe a little deeper, a little slower, and so does she. And as you continue to hold her, comfort her, and soothe her, she slowly starts to settle down. Knowing that her emotions are valid, her experience is valid, and that it's okay to feel how she feels. She continues to let it out, and you continue to allow her, continuing to tell her that she's safe. She's safe with you. She's safe in this garden. And feeling her breath start to slow, her energy begin to calm. She realizes She is safe with you. You feel her heart and her breath start to slow down. The tears on her cheeks starting to evaporate. And feeling her heart on your heart, her breath against your breath. And this little girl starts to realize she's safe. And knowing that you can come back to this garden whenever you need. You can come back to this place whenever your inner child needs to be soothed, whenever you feel anxious or scared or overwhelmed. This garden is always here for you. This safe place in your mind is always here for you. This garden will always comfort you and always hold you, always give you a space to be there for your inner child. And letting her know, letting this little girl know that from now on you will always be here for her. You will always come to comfort her whenever she feels activated or scared. Letting her know that she is so safe inside of this garden. She is so safe with you. Knowing that you can come back here whenever you need. And allowing the process to be complete for now. And saying goodbye to this little girl, leaving her in this safe space, in this safe place in the garden. As you slowly wave goodbye and start to walk up the 7 stairs from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, arriving in the corridor and slowly walking up the corridor until you feel ready to come back into this moment, perhaps feeling your hands touching your skin. And when you're ready, slowly opening your eyes. Dana, my love, would you be able to share a little bit about how this process and this meditation allowed you to create a safe space in yourself and how that's changed, how that's changed things for you?
Sure. I pre-apologize for how nervous I am. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. Thank you for the opportunity, Bart Susie. So in my past, I've had some serious traumas happen, including both physical sexual assault and kidnapping. So I put on a survivor mask at a very young age, and therefore nobody could help me because I wouldn't let anybody in. And therefore I thought I was fine. I kept on doing life. I succeeded at all the academic things and so on and so forth, not realizing that I constantly internally was living in a state of fight or flight. And that is why emotions terrified me, and I didn't let myself feel any of these emotions. Until Susie and I started working on the inner child, I realized a lot of my issues as an adult come from the wounds I still harbored from a child. And then doing this and making a safe space within myself for both me as an adult and me as a child helped me release the negative, well, negative's probably not the right word, the yucky emotions that I held in that were coming out in different ways in my life and in my relationships. And also made me realize how emotionally stunted I was, even though I was so book smart, if that makes sense, and was succeeding within my career. So having this space and being able to return to this space has let me become more vulnerable and therefore more emotionally intelligent, and being able to sit with all my emotions. And I get to feel the nice ones now, which is something I guess I thought the world wasn't willing to give me, but I wasn't willing to let it in because I didn't want to feel any of the emotions because of what I'd been through in my past. And in doing that, it has just opened up everything in my life. And I finally am to a point where I almost can say that that little girl's abandonment wounds I healed by myself as an adult, which is really amazing and something I never thought I could do. I always thought I'd be broken. I always thought I'd be different. I'd always thought I'd overreact in relationships and push people away or get too angry because of, you know, my father being so abusive. I thought that that's how I would turn out if I let these emotions out. But you know what? Being angry and punching a pillow, it's actually so good. And not, it doesn't make you less than as a person. It doesn't make you that emotion. You're not anger. You're not, you know, you let it out and it flows on to something else. And it's just so empowering when you realize all emotions are okay. And it makes you stronger and willing to learn more about yourself, forgive things that you never thought you could forgive. And also realizing that maybe some of the things that have happened to you weren't because of who you are as a person. It's other people's traumas that they didn't process or learn from themselves that makes things generational. Or yeah, it's not about you as a person is probably the biggest thing. And healing that child and being able to tell that child that you will be safe, you will be okay, and it is not you, is such an empowering thing as a woman. And yeah, I would, yeah, if anyone else is able to sit in their uncomfortable moments to be able to feel the good ones, I highly recommend it. I still react from trauma sometimes, but I also can sit within myself and figure out if this is a genuine feeling or a projection due to my past. And realize that possibly not everyone is out to hurt you, and let people in. And it's in some way beautiful to be vulnerable, hence the awkward nervousness that Susie is creating right now. But yeah, this is huge for me to be so vulnerable. I put a survivor mask on where nothing can hurt me and no one ever will. And I thought that was strength. I thought that was warrior empowerment. But I was just hurting myself in a lot of ways because I wasn't letting myself feel anything. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, my love. What would you
You're
have
welcome.
said? What would you have said if I told you 2 months ago that you'd be speaking on a masterclass with 20 women inside?
Oh, I would have laughed in your face, honey. You know it. Told you you'd do it. If it's not about, I'm not doing it. or anything. No, most definitely not. And that's proof that, you know, something that has harbored me back for 30 years, by rewiring my brain and respecting and understanding why I do the things I do, and, you know, giving myself compassion and feeling everything, it's brought me so far so quickly. You know, might not happen overnight for everyone, but if you really put the effort in, it's amazing how quickly it can change. I never thought I would be doing half the things I'm doing right now within my personal life. And yeah, here I am. So proof is in the magic, I guess.
You're amazing. Thank you for sharing, my love. And everybody's giving you so much love in the comments. So have a read. Everybody's sending you lots of hearts and saying you're amazing, which you are. Yeah, this is why I love to get clients to hop on and share, because like I said, it's all well and good me sharing these things, but when you can actually see the transformation in someone else, it makes it land so much more. So I know that the masterclass has already gone quite a long time. How's everyone feeling? Do you have space for more time, or how are we feeling? Are we feeling done? Like I need to go be under the full moon. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. I'm going to keep going. And if you really feel like you need to hop off because it's late where you are, I totally understand. There will be a replay. So if you hop off early, you're welcome to catch the replay. I want to share a couple more things about regulating your emotions. And then I'll get into creating safety in yourself. So apart from using emotional release practices to regulate your emotions, some other really beautiful things that I love to use are cleansing and grounding techniques. So when you allow yourself to go fully into the emotional release experience, after that process, I like to go and do something to cleanse or ground myself. So that might be going out into nature and being in the trees, like feeling earth or grass beneath my feet, or going for a swim in the ocean. Anything with salt is really cleansing. So like ocean swims, or even having a bath with like Himalayan salt. These things really cleanse and ground you and bring you back to center. And I love Sarah's share about like going and howling out in nature. Like anytime you can go out and be primal in nature, it's so healing. Another really beautiful technique to use is your breath. So the type of breath that you breathe matters. When we're feeling anxious, we breathe from our chest, and it's like fast and shallow. So if you're feeling anxiety, try and breathe all the way down into your belly, like all the way down into your pelvis, and expand your belly out on the inhale, and then allow it to soften on the exhale. Breathing through the nose. The more that you can slow down and expand your breath and deepen your breath, you'll be able to calm and ground yourself through things. So obviously sometimes when we're triggered, we're not able to go and do an emotional release practice. Like we might be at work. You can't like go and punch some pillows while you're at work mostly. You might be able to go into the bathroom and have a little like shake or something like that, which I highly recommend. A little stomp around in the bathroom. Or you might not be able to do anything. So in those moments, like really use your breath. And I like to visualize emotions leaving my body. Like I remember I shared with one of my clients, if you're feeling angry and you can't do anything externally, like close your eyes and visualize yourself like a cartoon character with like steam coming out of your ears and just like seeing something leave, if that makes sense. Like allowing the emotion to bubble up and feeling the sensations in your body instead of suppressing the sensations in your body, and allowing them to leave in some way. doing touch and tap is also fantastic for panic attacks. Yeah, so tapping is also known as emotional freedom technique, and it's tapping certain points on your body which access the subconscious mind. So you can look into emotional freedom technique tapping, like squeezing your fingers as well. I guide the women in my programs through it in the hypnosis as well that we use. But if you want to look into it, emotional freedom technique tapping is what it's called. I mentioned that I was going to share how to create safety and trust in yourself. So in terms of creating safety in yourself, one of the things that's really important is learning to cultivate self-trust. And what tends to happen when we have challenges or we're at a point in our lives when our experience isn't what we want it to be is we make ourselves wrong, or we set these really, really unattainable goals. Like, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes every day and exercise for an hour every day, start going to the gym, get up at 6 a.m. every morning. And we had a little chat about this before, like rigid rules and really big changes. And so what happens is we can tend to set these things that are unattainable, and then we get down on ourselves when we don't do them, and then we go down this shame spiral of like, I'm not good enough and I'm not doing the things that I said I was going to do, and blah, 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 blah. So when we're learning to cultivate self-trust, the most important thing is to set yourself really small, simple, easily attainable tasks. So if you're in this space of needing to cultivate more self-trust, my invitation would be to promise yourself that you'll do one thing every day. And that could be as small as as soon as I wake up in the morning every day, I'm going to have a glass of water. Like, it can be that simple. And then every time you drink that glass of water, imagine like you're drinking in self-trust. And you can say to yourself, this is cultivating self-trust. And if you do that every single day, that tiny, simple little action, you'll be showing yourself that, oh, I'm actually doing the things that I said I'd do. And you'll be surprised at how much this cultivates self-trust, this small little action. Instead of drinking a glass of water, maybe you do a 5-minute meditation every morning as soon as you wake up. You're showing up for you. Yeah, exactly. I was like, shooing? You're showing up for you. Yes, exactly. Jody, no worries, my love. Thank you for coming, beautiful warrior woman. Bye, darling. Yeah, exactly. Tasmin, showing up for you. Another thing to create safety in yourself is using the inner child garden visualization that I just guided you through. So now that you've experienced that, you can visualize that for yourself. So anytime that you're feeling unsafe or triggered or anxious, close your eyes and visualize your garden and sit there and hold your inner child. Breathe with her. Let her know that she's safe with you. It's a really beautiful practice to come back to self-trust and safety in yourself. And another thing to create safety in yourself is literally like creating a safe space for you to be in, like making your mind a safe space. Something that when we're having struggles like this, we can tend to do is be really unkind to ourselves, right? Like have a really strong inner critic. And so if our inner critic is running rampant in our mind isn't a safe space for us to be. So starting to have radical self-responsibility around the thoughts that we're having about ourselves in our own mind. This will create safety in ourselves. If we have rigid rules like all or nothing, like, exercising every day at the gym for 3 hours or doing absolutely nothing. That's like rigid rules, all or nothing kind of tendencies. Doing that is not a safe space to be inside in your own mind, because you're critiquing yourself if you're not being perfect, right? So really allowing yourself forgiveness, compassion, acceptance, leaning into these as much as you can, forgiveness, compassion, and acceptance. This is how you create a safe space in your own mind. One of my clients, Sarah, that shared before, she gave her, and there she is, she's waving. She gave her inner critic a name, which I loved so much. It was Gwendolyn Bobbinshire was the name of Sarah's inner critic.
Rubenshire. Get the name right.
Bobbinshire, sorry. So I love this so much, because giving your inner critic like the most ridiculous, hilarious name just makes it funny. And then like every time a critical thought pops up in your mind, it's like, Gwendolyn, lol. And then you can actually laugh at it. You can actually laugh at this voice that's being critical. And so it's about separating yourself from that voice. Like that voice isn't you. And so that's what I loved about Sarah giving it this ridiculous name, is like, it's not her, it's not Sarah, it's this other thing. And I guided her through a visualization where like Gwendolyn, what did Gwendolyn look like? It was like this squishy little ball. And then we like threw Gwendolyn off into cyberspace, into outer space. But it's a really beautiful practice to do, of like separating yourself from that voice. It's not you, it's something separate. And then giving it a funny name, giving it a funny look, and allowing yourself a visualization of like throwing it off into outer space. And then every time it pops up, you can do the same thing. So separating yourself from this inner critic allows you to create a safe space in your own mind. Hashtag Gwendolyn. Oh my gosh, so funny. Yeah, beautiful. Where's Stacey? Is she here? I think she's hopped off. Dana, my love, I'd love to hear from you again on what would you have said about feeling unworthy of changing, or even wondering whether you can change before working with me?
I didn't think I was capable of changing due to the fact that I seen myself as OCD with PTSD. All the things that I had been diagnosed as were who I identified as. But I don't identify myself as any of those anymore. They are parts of my personality and tendencies I have, but that is not who I am. And yeah, the change is amazing. I can't even verbalize how much I've changed, to be quite honest. I was very cynical and very self-critical, and I'm neither of those anymore in a matter of, oh gosh, what is it? 3 months? Yeah, a very short period of time. So it's amazing how rewiring and healing childhood wounds can really open up paths in your life.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I just saw your message that you have to hop off. So thank you so much for being here, my love. I love you so much. Yeah, beautiful. So I'd love to hear from you if you want to just type in the chat or pop your hands up from what you've experienced so far in the masterclass and from what you've heard from my clients. is working with me something that feels like it would help you in whatever you're struggling with currently? I would love to know, just a show of hands or just a little yes, just to know whether this is landing for you and if you're feeling a resonance with what I'm speaking to. Angela says yes. Nat has to sign off. Thank you, my love. Mwah. Bye, Nat. Jack says yes. Claire says yes. Yes. Yeah, beautiful. Amazing. Guiding women through the transformations that you have heard about so far is honestly like my soul's purpose in life. I feel so called to this work, and seeing and experiencing the shifts in my clients is like, it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. And I truly just want to be here to support you all through what you're going through. It really lights up my soul so much. So if you're feeling called into learning what that would look like, I love to have a chat with anyone that feels a resonance with me, and then we can talk about whether what I offer is the most supportive thing for it, for you, whether what I offer is the most supportive thing for you at this time. So if that's you, I'll pop my link here and you can book in a call. Where am I? Millie, you're so good at it. Sarah, I'm so thankful for you for this. Oh, thank you, my loves. So if you're feeling called, feel free to book a breakthrough call and we can dive into what's going on for you, where you're stuck, where your current challenges are, and whether what I offer is the best thing for you. I just like to get to know you, chat with you, and yeah, really dive into what's going on for you and what the root of your problem is, and or what the root of your challenge is. And this breakthrough call, it's funny. A lot of my clients say that the breakthrough call is like the most, like they receive more out of the breakthrough call, which is free, by the way, than years of therapy. So it always makes me laugh when that happens. But Catherine's nodding, Sarah's nodding, Millie says yes, literally. Sarah says, I was just about to say that. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're feeling called, book a breakthrough call. I would love to have a chat with you and dive deep into what's going on for you. So all of my clients that you've heard from so far, they've all been part of my program, the Empowered Women Transformation, which is a 12-week transformation where I guide you through all of the things that you're currently struggling with to become the most empowered version of you. And I like to refer to that version of you as your queen, your inner queen. So the way that I do that is through 4 phases. So the first phase is reprogramming the core beliefs that are keeping you small. So that's what I spoke about, that core belief of not being enough, and potentially an abandonment wound, and potentially coping mechanisms of self-abandonment. So we rewire this core belief with hypnosis, inner child healing, and taking new embodied actions in your life. Catherine says, fearless queen. Yes, absolutely. Catherine's queen is so fearless. The second phase is all about emotional regulation. So we use all of these beautiful emotional release practices that I've been speaking about. And I teach a really beautiful process on how to deal with triggers in an empowered way, which you're all going to receive that PDF in a couple of days in some emails. But obviously, having the accountability and support of a coach and a collective of women supporting you through that is so much more transformational than just doing it on your own. Catherine, did you want to share a little bit about that trigger journaling process? Because I know you're so good at using it. Oh, I can't hear you. You're not on mute, but maybe your AirPods aren't connected.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Yes, hi everybody. How are we? One of the practices is the trigger journaling, and that's probably been the biggest one for me. I feel like I've had so many different little breakthroughs just from writing out how I feel and what's going on, and just the process of asking yourself these questions and the feelings that it brings up. And I'm a person of words of affirmation, so writing and words mean a lot to me. So it gets to the bottom of things really in a good way. And yeah, just it's great. I've actually done a lot of these practices, and every one of them have worked in different ways. Every time I do a meditation with Susie, I cry. But yeah, just it's been great. So
Thank you, beautiful. Millie says, so uncomfortable but life-changing. Yeah, did you want to share a little bit about what you meant by that?
Yes, I think it just comes down to exactly what you were saying about how awareness around what's triggering your emotions and the root of them is really empowering. Yeah, that's probably what I meant by that. How it's
Yeah.
life-changing.
Yeah. Yeah, something that used to happen for me or come up for me around emotions was that I would feel something and I didn't even know why. Like I didn't know why I was feeling annoyed or frustrated. I just felt something. And so I developed this journaling process to really get to the bottom of why I was feeling how I was feeling, what to do about releasing that feeling, and really finding the gift beneath that emotion. So like Sarah was speaking about the message behind the emotion. What is this emotion telling me? What is this emotion telling me about my beliefs that I hold about myself? And then how can I completely switch this trigger around from something that feels disempowering to something that is so empowering, because it's showing me somewhere I can grow, and how can I take new action from that place? Sarah says it's strange how honest you can be through writing rather than talking. Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, I'm going to pop the link to the Empowered Women Transformation in the chat if any of you are feeling called to learn more about it. It's a 12-week group journey now, so it's all about a group of women journeying together, and we start next week. Beautiful Dana, who shared before, and Natalie are going to be in there, and a couple of other women. So if you're feeling called into that, I would love to hold space for your transformation inside of that. Like I said, you can learn more about it there, and if you're feeling inspired, you can book a breakthrough call and we can chat about that further. Katharina, I have to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for coming, my love. Mwah. Sending lots of love. All right. We might just have one more client share and then we'll wrap it up. Millie, my darling, would you like to hop on and share a little bit about what you were struggling the most before you signed up, and how has that changed?
I was probably struggling the most with relationship anxiety, and self-doubt, and it almost makes me feel a little bit emotional just to think about like what like a bad
place I was in, and it, like, just to think about how sad it was, the way that I thought about myself. And yeah, like recognition and awareness around it actually being an abandonment wound, and it being like self-abandonment to people please and not speak my worth. Whereas I thought I was being this kind and like calm girlfriend, who was so easygoing, but I was absolutely self-abandoning, because I was coming from a place of fear and like being so scared to lose him, rather than from a place of self-worth and knowing that I'm worthy of speaking up for what I am worthy of. So yeah, in regards to where I am now, definitely way more confidence in myself, way more awareness and embodied worthiness, and also recognition around like avoidant, like recognizing avoidant tendencies in people, or like my ex, for example, and just being like turned off that, rather than the anxiety like taking over and reaching or clinging. Yeah, I think that's would be where I'm at now.
Beautiful.
But
Were you
yeah, a
nervous
lot
about signing up?
more amazing things have come with this journey.
Thanks, babe. Were you nervous about signing up when you first spoke to me?
Yes, I was very nervous, mostly about the like money factor. I was pretty keen to like get in there and like get uncomfortable and do it all, but yeah.
And what would you say to someone who is feeling nervous about the money factor?
I would say that investing this money into yourself is a massive like sign to the universe that you are ready and willing to show up for yourself, because you're worthy of this for yourself. And with that, the universe like hears this and is like, oh, okay. And just from that decision that I made, like I felt change straight away. So yeah, if you want to change your life, you gotta spend the money like you want to change your life.
Yeah, beautiful. Sarah says, invest in yourself and be open to receive. Yeah. Sarah, do you want to just briefly share about your financial situation when you invested and now? Because I know that this story is super inspiring.
Yeah, sure. So definitely agree with Millie in the investing in the money was one of my biggest barriers to it. I knew that something needed to change, and that I knew I needed help in that change, because everything that I was doing was not creating that. But I didn't have a lot of funds, and I think after our breakthrough call, I lost my job like that week of. So I spent my last bit of savings that I had on it. And then I lost my job, and I was like, I don't think I can continue this, Susie. Like, and then broke through it. And I stuck it out, and I continued to work through it. And that's why I said, like, be open to receive, because I didn't think that I was worthy of receiving the good, even though I wanted it and I was chasing it. So what actually ended up happening is, as my confidence built and I started to let go of all my ideas and barriers of what I wanted to receive and how I wanted my life to be, I ended up landing this dream job that I probably never would have applied for, thinking that I wasn't good enough for it. And it was part-time. And then after 2 weeks of being there, they offered me an even better role. So I became full-time and started earning more money than I could have possibly imagined. Like, they actually asked how much I thought a role like that should earn. And I went to say what I wanted, and then I remembered the work that we'd been doing about having the confidence and knowing your worth. And I first said, what do you feel like? Like, what is your budget for, before I put the worth on myself? And they said way more than I would have actually said. So it was amazing to take that step back, and rather than to ask what they thought I was worth, rather than me putting my worth on it. And it's created more money for me by doing this and investing in myself, because I learned what to do to receive it.
So beautiful. I love that story so much. It's so inspiring. Thank you, my love. And Catherine says, I thought the same, but I weighed it up against the cost of therapy, and in comparison, this has been way more beneficial to me. Oh. Yeah, I think you said you'd been in therapy for like 2 years or something before, right, Catherine? Yeah. 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 So yeah, with big investment comes big change. If you want transformation, like Sarah and Catherine and Millie said, be willing to invest in yourself to feel that transformation. It's life-changing what happens when you invest in yourself that deeply. Like Millie said, you're communicating to the universe that I am worthy. I am worthy of investing in myself. So my loves, I know it's been very long, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to pop a link in the chat to our Facebook group, the Empowered Women Community, which is a free community. So you're welcome to join and play inside of that and be supported by all of us inside of there. If you have any questions for me about the transformation, about booking a breakthrough call, or about anything else that was spoken about, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. Thank you so much, my loves, for coming. Thank you, beautiful women, Catherine, Millie, Sarah, for sharing and showing up. I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you. And yeah, I'm excited to serve and support any of you who feel called into working with me. So thank you so much, my loves, and have a beautiful rest of your evening, and I will see you soon. Mwah. Look out for my emails. They will have lots of beautiful gifts in there. So much love. Thank you, beautifuls. Catherine, it's all because of you. Oh, you're so sweet.